Preliminary exam is just screening in nature. The total marks obtained by you in mains examination and interview will be considered to give ranking to you. General essay paper is common to everyone. General studies papers are common to all the students, but optional. Optional varies from student to student. It depends upon the option selected by the aspirants. Our rank will be decided. Many of you may be thinking to take anthropology as an optional because it is a high scoring optional. Selection of optional is very, very important. Recently, third rank holder Uma Harati also, she wrote a civil service exam with other optional. In the last 2 attempts, she changed the optional and she got good marks and she cleared the exam with All India rank number 3. That is the importance of anthropology option. Of course, there is a different matter. First of all, we have to choose the optional properly. That's why in this class, we are going to discuss how to choose an optional. What are the criteria that are to be taken into consideration in selecting one optional? The first criterion is quantity of the syllabus. Quantity of the syllabus. If the syllabus is less, we can acquire mastery over the syllabus as early as possible. Second one is recent trends. Recent trends in the UPSC exams. Generally, in any subject, questions will be given in 2 ways. One is based on the static content. Second one is based on the current affairs. That's why in the examination, questions can be divided into 2 categories: static questions and current affairs based questions. They are also called dynamic questions. We have to consider this aspect. Why? Because many students may be following current affairs regularly, but catching the pulse of UPSC is very, very important. That's why we have to select an optional in such a manner that in that optional, the chances for dynamic questions must be less. Second category, in the first category, from the syllabus directly questions will be given. Here in the static component, questions will be again of 2 types. One is direct question. Second category is indirect questions. Directly from the syllabus, questions will be asked. Without any thinking, we can give answers. Indirect questions means based on the analysis of a particular concept, questions will be given. In those questions, your understanding of a particular concept, what are the drawbacks in a particular concept, your analytical ability will be tested. That's why first we have to consider how many questions are dynamic questions in the exam. After that, in the static content, how many questions are direct questions and how many questions are indirect questions. If the direct questions are more in number, then we can give ready-made answers, we can get maximum marks. These are the criteria that are to be considered with respect to recent trends. The next criterion is availability of coaching. Availability of coaching. Coaching is very, very important. Why? Because for many optionals, we require in-depth understanding. Even without guidance also, we can acquire mastery over different subjects. But it takes time. This is a competitive examination. When compared with other students, we must get more students. Here the basic principle is best among the worst. That's why when compared with other students, if you want to get more marks, guidance is required, so that you can acquire the mastery over the subject as early as possible. Otherwise, it may take 2 years of time, 3 years of time, 4 years of time. Sometimes number of attempts will also be over. That's why coaching is very, very important. After that, availability of material. Availability of material. That is also very, very important. If material is available, then only we can acquire mastery over the subjects. In UPSC syllabus, there are some concepts for which we are not able to find answers or the content, even by searching in net also. Very, very small micro topics will be there. Even today also, many experts are facing difficulty in getting answers to those questions. That's why availability of material is very, very important. After that, availability of post-coaching support. After the completion of coaching, you may start learning. After learning, you may start writing answers to different questions. First of all, we should know where we are in the competition. That's why if the test series availability is there for a particular option, consider medical science. Who is offering medical science as an optional? Very rarely, only in Delhi. Like that, certain options are there for which we cannot get post-coaching support. So post-coaching support should also be considered. Whenever we write test series, then only we can come to know our position in the competition. If you want to write the mains examination directly without attempting test series, then it is not possible for us to know where we are. If we know where we are, then only accordingly we can make number of changes in our preparation. That's why availability of post-coaching support is also very, very important. And the overall success of that optional in the past 5 years, that is also another important aspect. These are the criteria that are to be considered at the time of selecting an optional. And apart from all these things, there is one more criteria, that is interest. Some people like some type of content, some people may like some other type of content, some people may like geography, some people may have interest in history, some people may have interest in politics. Like this, depending upon the personal interest also, we have to select the optional. After selecting an optional, if that subject is not interesting to you, then it is of no use. That's why personal interest is also very, very important. That's why we should know what is the subject content of anthropology. Then only we can decide. Of course, with respect to anthropology optional, the syllabus is very less. Even many students, many aspirants, they approached us after clearing prelims examination. Within 2 months, they conquered the exam. There is one student by name Yashashwini in Karnataka, Bangalore. After clearing prelims examination, she approached. Then we told her, okay, you have very less time. Take this material, mug up this material. And we asked her to write as it is. We have to appreciate her intelligence and memory power. She can write as it is. She got 300 marks in the first attempt itself. She got 300 rank also. In the next attempt, she got 70 rank and she got IAS. Here, the syllabus is very, very less. Within a short span of time, we can acquire mastery. Apart from that, in anthropology, there will be 2 papers. First paper and second paper. First paper will be in general. Second paper will be in the context of India, Indian anthropology. In Indian anthropology, nothing new will be there. Maximum syllabus is from general studies only. That's why many students, they are able to clear the examination even by opting the optional, anthropology optional in the last attempt. Why? Because second paper there is nothing new, barring few topics. Entire syllabus itself is very, very less. Then recent trends. In the past few years, Majority of the questions, except in our syllabus, we have total 4 components. In first paper, there are 2 components. In second paper, there are 2 components. In second paper, in the second component, there is that component name is Tribal India. Only from Tribal India, current affairs based questions will be there. That means the probability of current affairs based questions is very, very less. Only 25% of the syllabus. In that 25% is also direct questions will be 50%, and current affairs based questions will be 50%. That means the probability of current affairs based questions is very, very less. And most of the times the questions are direct questions. Here from the beginning I am telling you regarding the criteria to be taken in the selection of optional. Many of you may be thinking to take anthropology and optional, but the term may be new for you. What is the subject content of anthropology? It is nothing but study of our society. That's it. Sociology, anthropology, both are same. The only difference is in sociology we'll study the society in general. In anthropology we'll study the society even from biological perspective also. Our biological characteristics are going to influence our behavior. That's why we'll study the evolution of man and his culture in anthropology. In sociology we'll study purely society. That's why in anthropology also we study society. That is useful for your general studies paper 1, even for general essay also. That's why in anthropology we'll study basically Indian society. In Indian society, most of the questions are direct questions. But in sociology, the subject content is same, but the questions are more indirect questions. That is the main difference. In sociology, current affairs based questions will be there and indirect questions will be there. In anthropology, the scope for current affairs based questions and indirect questions is very, very less. That is the advantage. Actually, anthropology is a branch of sociology. Once upon a time, anthropology was just a branch of sociology. In due course of time, it got its own recognition. Now, it is considered as a multidisciplinary subject. That is the only difference. Here also, we'll study Indian society. At this level, for your easy understanding, I'll tell you like this. Anthropology is nothing but study of evolution of man and his culture. Evolution is a continuous process. It started long ago. It is taking place now also, and it will take place in the future also. In the society as well as in our body. After 2 millennia, our body features may be different. Definitely our society will be different after 1 month. Am I correct or not? In our society, number of changes are going on. That's why the study of society starts from the beginning and it will continue into the future as far as our anthropology is concerned. That's why here also we'll study the society mainly. But the only thing is we'll study the society from the biological perspective also. Here, majority of the problems in our society are either for the sake of money or for the sake of females. Whether you accept or not, this is true. Dynasties were collapsed for the sake of females. Am I correct or not? Even in movies also you can come across these dialogues. Why? Biological desires. What are the reasons for biological desires? We'll study from biological perspective also. Now let us discuss what is the subject content of anthropology, and later we will discuss some more issues. First let us discuss anthropology in detail, the subject content of anthropology. In anthropology, there are 2 papers, first paper and second paper. First paper is in general, second paper is in the context of India, Indian anthropology. In every paper, there are 2 sections, section A and section B. In first paper, section A deals with socio-cultural aspects of our society. Socio-cultural aspects. That's why it is popularly called as socio-cultural anthropology. Section B deals with biological aspects. It is called as physical anthropology or biological anthropology. In second paper, we'll study Indian society under section A. In Indian society, there are many disadvantaged sections. Women, children, old people, physically handicapped, mentally handicapped, OBCs, SCs, STs, minorities, like this. Out of all those categories, tribals are considered as the most disadvantaged sections. That's why in our anthropology, we'll study tribals in detail, tribal India. In socio-cultural anthropology, we have total 8 chapters. The first chapter deals with evolution of man and his culture. In the first chapter, we'll study evolution of man and his culture. Apart from introduction, that means what is meant by anthropology, what are the different branches of anthropology, like that. From second chapter onwards, we'll study the culture in detail. We'll study the culture in detail. In our culture, we'll study marriage, family, and kinship. What is meant by marriage, I need not to explain. In this chapter, we'll study what is the meaning of marriage, why marriage came into existence, what are the different types of marriages, what are the different rules associated with the marriages. Like that, we'll study in marriage chapter. Marriage inevitably leads to formation of family. With respect to family, we'll study what are the functions of the family, what are the different types of families, and what are the rules of residence. After the marriage, the newly married couple has to live at one particular place. In our society, generally, the newly married couple lives along with the groom's parental household. But it may vary depending upon the society. And what are the changes in the family because of modernization and urbanization? We'll study. The next one is kinship. Kinship means relationship. How we trace our relationship. How we trace our relatives. We trace our relatives based on 2 types of criteria. One is blood relationship. Second one is through marriage. Through marriage, we'll get a new set of relatives. That's why, what are the different rules that are followed in tracing the relationship? We'll study in kinship. After that, we'll study economic anthropology. That means here we'll study economy in the context of culture. What is meant by economy? In economy, ultimately, we'll study the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. Take any aspect, finally, with respect to economy, all the topics are linked to production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. But the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services nowadays in our society, all are for the sake of money. Here, the transactions takes place through the medium of currency. But these transactions are going to be changed depending upon the cultural context. Now here there are many students. We may be charging some fees for giving you training in anthropology optional coaching. But if there is my brother's son in this class, can I charge 40,000 rupees? No. Cultural sentiments will be there. That's why cultural relations are going to influence the exchange of goods and services. That's why here we'll study economy, but in the context of culture. Similarly, politics also, political anthropology. Political anthropology. Why we are accepting Narendra Modi ji as our Prime Minister? You might have casted your vote to Congress party, but all of us are accepting Narendra Modi as our Prime Minister. Why? Huh? He reached that position through socially acceptable ways. Am I correct or not? Whether we cast our votes to Narendra Modi or some other person, ultimately if someone succeeds in the elections and if he is declared as successful candidate by the election commission, then he will go to parliament. In parliament there is one procedure. Majority of the parliamentarians, they give support to a particular person. Then he can become the prime minister. We have one mechanism. Whether it is acceptable to some people or not, if a particular person reaches that position, then all the people will accept the decisions taken by that particular person. This is called legitimacy, social acceptance. If there is no legitimacy, then we won't follow the decisions taken by those people. Am I correct or not? That's why for any ruler to rule a particular society, there must be legitimacy. If there is military coup and if they give orders, we may or may not follow. People may revolt against the military also. Am I correct or not? That's why we'll study what are the sources of legitimacy in our society. We have one constitutional mechanism to send our leaders to the parliament. Even though we have some mechanisms, our cultural sentiments are going to play an important role. If there is, of course, our present prime minister may not be having any legal hair, but the past prime ministers, they have legal hairs. In case of death of one particular person, his family members were given recognition by our society. Am I correct or not? By social acceptance. After the death of social traditions, after the death of Jawaharlal Nehru, Indira Gandhi was given priority. Why? Because in our society, we have those traditions. That's why our traditions, our culture is going to influence selection of leaders. That means our culture norms are going to influence our political system. That's why here we will study different varieties of political concepts in the context of culture, how there is settlement of disputes. Then religion. How religion came into existence. We are going to study based on the experience. Different anthropologists propose different theories, and later we'll study what are the different factors that influence the people behavior with respect to gods. We'll study in the religion and different varieties of religious practices. We'll carry out different varieties of religious practices. They are called rituals. We'll study different varieties of rituals, all those things in religion. And the sixth chapter is anthropological theories. Forget about this topic. The seventh chapter is a language. Language is also part and parcel of our culture. If someone offends our language, definitely we'll get a lot of angry. Am I correct or not? Even the politicians also, the national level leaders, at the time of election campaigns, if they visit a particular place, in order to identify with the people of that place, they would like to start their speech in the regional language. Am I correct or not? If Narendra Modi comes to Hyderabad, then he may start his speech, Namaste Telangana, like that. Why? Because if someone speaks in our language, then that identification will be easy. The people can easily be identified with themselves. That's why language acts as a cultural link. Even if you go to Delhi for the sake of coaching, let us assume, there you will form groups. Am I correct or not? All Telugu speaking people form one group. You will select some Telugu speaking people and you would like to live in one room with those people. Am I correct or not? Why? Because there will be similarity in culture. Then without any incompatibility we can live together. That's why in the culture part we are going to study all these things: marriage, family, kinship, economic anthropology, political anthropology, religion and language. Forget about sixth chapter, we'll discuss later. The next chapter is research methods. Research methods. Now we came to know that there are different varieties of marriages. Here in our state in South, we can come across monogamy most of the times. One husband, one wife. And polygyny also. With respect to certain communities, we can come across polygyny. But if you go to Uttarakhand, and there is one community by name Khasas, there we can come across polyandry, multiple husbands, single female, multiple husbands. And if you go to South America, we can come across group marriages also. A group of males will marry a group of females. Like this, there are different varieties of marriages. How we came to know about all these marriages? How we came to know about all these practices? It is because of the research conducted by our anthropologists. At the time of conducting research, we have to take certain precautions. If someone suddenly asks you, what is your name? Where are you from? Are you married? Like this, if a stranger asks you all these questions, immediately what will be your response? Am I correct or not? Why? Because they don't know us. That's why here establishing credibility in the subjects is very, very important. And when someone is observing, our behavior will definitely not be in normal way. Am I correct or not? 10 మంది అమ్మాయిలు కూర్చుంటే ఒక అబ్బాయి నడుచుకుంటే పోమంటే నార్మల్గా నడుస్తాడా? చెప్పండి, నాట్ పాసిబుల్. వైస్ వర్సా, సేమ్ రివర్స్ అయినా కూడా సేమే ఉంటుంది. Am I correct? If someone is observing, if someone is there to observe only our behavior, definitely our behavior will not be natural. We have to overcome that feeling. Whenever we are conducting research in a particular society, if you want to know the essence of the culture of that particular society, we have to overcome those feelings. What are the precautions that are to be taken? And at the same time, certain criteria have to be taken into consideration whenever you are carrying out research. If you want to know about political behavior of the people in Andhra Pradesh, let us take one example. And if you want to rely, we rely on different sources. We'll study the society directly. We'll go through autobiographies. We'll go through newspapers. We'll go through government publications or reports. And like that, we'll rely on different sources. Now, if you want to know about Andhra people, if you rely on Eenadu newspaper, you will get one type of interpretation. If you rely on Sakshi newspaper, you will get one type of interpretation. Am I correct or not? Why? Intention of the person who has been giving that information is different. Eenadu వాడి ఇంటెన్షన్ ఒకలా ఉంటుంది, సాక్షి వాడి ఇంటెన్షన్ ఒకలా ఉంటుంది. అది మన మైండ్లో ఉన్నప్పుడు డెఫినెట్లీ వీ కెన్ అవాయిడ్ ఎర్రర్స్. దట్స్ వై that awareness is very, very important. Intention of the person who has been providing information is very, very important. If you cannot if you are not considering that intention, then you are going to get biased data. Then if you are getting, that means if the research is getting biased data, then all the people who are going to rely on that publication are going to get wrong interpretation. Am I correct or not? That's why at the time of conducting research, we have to take a number of precautions. What are the precautions that are to be taken? What are the different methods that are to be applied? What are the different techniques that are to be applied? We are going to study in research methods. Now, many of the students, they may ask us, many of the students generally they used to say that, sir, I'll give one attempt for the sake of experience. Then we used to advise the aspirants, don't give attempt without full preparation. Try to clear all the stages in the first attempt itself. If you want to take 2 years or 3 years, but try to go to interview in the first attempt itself. Why? Because based on our experience, we realized that if you go to interview in the first attempt, they will allot maximum marks. Rather than the second or third attempt, if you go in the first attempt itself to the interview, definitely they will give more weightage. This is based on our experience. It may be true, sometimes it may not be true. Similarly, our anthropologists, after conducting research because of their experience with many societies, they came to a conclusion that culture came in this manner. Like this, they proposed a number of theories, how culture came into existence, how it has spread from one part of the society to another part of the society. We'll study those theories. How symbols play an important role in our society. Symbols are very, very important. Say, for example, if you are going in the traffic, if there is at the signal, if there is one police constable in uniform, then you may not jump the signals. If there are no CC cameras and if there is no police person, or if there is a police person not with uniform, then you may not consider him as constable, he may jump the signal. Am I correct or not? If there is any one person with that uniform, immediately it gives you a clue that, oh, he is a police person, we have to be careful. If someone asks you to leave this area, you may not leave. But if a person with police uniform asks you to leave this area for security concerns, immediately you will go. Am I correct or not? Based on here, we have different varieties of, in our culture, we have different varieties of symbolic representations. Those symbolic representations are going to influence our behavior. In culture is nothing but our behavior. We are going to study the behavior. మీకు ఇంకా అర్థమయ్యే భాషలో తెలుగులో చెప్తామండి. Generally, if we come to coaching, boys will be there, girls will be there. If there is one beautiful female, immediately first your looks will go towards the toes of the female. Why? First of all, you will cross check whether that female is married or not. Am I correct or not? Why? You know very well. Here, that is a symbolic representation. To avoid misbehavior with a married female, to avoid future complications. So we have one symbolic representation. Like this, in our culture, there are many symbolic representations. How symbols are going to influence our behavior. That is separately one theory is their symbolism. Like this, we are going to study different varieties of theories here. Based on the experience of the researchers, they propose different theories. What are those theories? We'll study here. Even in our classes also, we'll study in this sequence only. We'll study first these lessons, after that research methods, after that anthropological theories. Then only you can understand. If you want me to discuss the syllabus in this sequence, it's not possible for me also to explain properly. UPSC arranged the syllabus haphazardly. There is no rationality. If there is no rationality, we can criticize publicly. There is haphazard arrangement of syllabus, but for your convenience, we have rearranged the syllabus accordingly. We will teach. This is socio-cultural anthropology. Now, in physical anthropology, we have only 4 chapters. One is genetics. In our syllabus, ranking is given like this, numbering is given like this. 9th chapter, genetics. 10th chapter, growth and development. 11th chapter, demographic physical anthropology. 12th chapter, applied physical anthropology. Human evolution is taking place from times immemorial. But those changes are handed over to the next generation through our genes. That's why we are going to study the concepts related to genes. In what ways the newly acquired characters will be transmitted to the next generation. And in the next chapter, we'll study growth and development. What are the different stages in the life of a human being? What are the biological changes that take place in our body with the advancement of age? Understanding of normal changes or biological changes in our body based on the age is very, very important. Generally, in our society, the newly married couple, if it lives along with the groom's parental household, a wife may prepare a food, husband may appreciate it, of course, whether it is good or bad, we have to appreciate. And mother-in-law may or may not appreciate. If mother-in-law is not giving appreciation, then daughter-in-law may develop discontent. Gradually it will accumulate and one day it explodes, generally. But here there is one biological mechanism. As age advances, the taste buds which are there on the tongue, they gradually decrease in size. They may not perceive the taste also. That's why sometimes mother-in-law may not give appreciation. Husband may give appreciation. If there is dispute between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, ultimately who is the sufferer? Husband. That's why we must realize the biological changes, then automatically these disputes can be avoided. See, like this, if we have proper understanding of our growth and development, many problems also can be avoided. We are going to study what are the changes that take place in our body as age advances. And later, we'll study demographic physical anthropology. Demographic means it is related to population. In physical anthropology, we'll study from biological perspective. That means here how the population size is controlled. What are the factors that influence population size? Ultimately, the population size will be controlled by reproduction. But this reproduction is controlled by what factors? Biological factors, socio-cultural factors. Am I correct or not? If I are not employed, if I are a newly married couple, then definitely you would like to postpone the production of the children. Am I correct or not? Like this, number of socio-cultural factors will be there. They are going to influence the production of the children. We are going to study it from biological perspective. And finally, applied physical anthropology. The knowledge gained by us during the study of genetics and other biological aspects of the human beings will be used to solve the medico-legal problems. In the hospitals, there may be accidental exchange of babies, either deliberately or accidentally. Sometimes the criminals, after performing a crime, they may leave some fingerprints, they may escape. Based on the knowledge of fingerprints, based on the knowledge of genetics, we can solve all these problems. That's why here we are going to study applied aspects. These are the components of physical anthropology. Now, in the second paper, in the first section, Indian society. In the Indian society, there are 5 chapters. First chapter deals with evolution of man and his culture in the Indian context. In the Indian context, that means how culture came into existence. Is there evolution of man in human? Generally, we consider that Africa is the place where human beings originated. From there, they migrated in different directions. Now they are settled in all the parts of the world. But is there any human evolution in India or not? We are going to study here. And we'll study the evolution of culture also. After that, we'll study demographic physical anthropology. Demographic profile of India. Demographic profile of India. Before starting the demo, I told you that I'm Ravindra. I have 14 years of experience. I'm a doctor. I'm one of the national toppers in anthropology. Like that, I told you. Here also, before studying Indian society, first of all, we want to know what are the characteristics of Indian population. What is the population size? How the population size changed over a period of time? What are the different racial elements in India? What are the different linguistic elements in India? Even in your general studies also, in geography, all these topics will be there. The first chapter will be there in your history, Paleolithic culture, Neolithic culture, like that different topics are there. The second chapter deals with the demographic profile. Only 3 topics are there, very simple chapter. After that, we'll study traditional Indian society. Traditional Indian society. Traditional Indian society. In order to understand evolution of culture, we have to start our study from the beginning. In the traditional Indian society, what are the different values or concepts that are created? Even today also, those elements are there. The elements of the traditional Indian society are there. We have unconsciously adopted those concepts. They are inculcated strongly into our mind. If there are repeated failures in your exam, unconsciously, you may tell to your friends that it is because of my karma. karma concept. Like that, there are different concepts. Purusharthas. Purusharthas means dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Runas, Daiva Runa, Pitru Runa, Guru Runa. Like this, certain concepts are there. They are produced in the traditional Indian society and they are continued even today also. We are going to study those concepts. And forget about fourth chapter. In fifth chapter, we'll study villages and social change. Villages and social change. If you want to know about Indian society or changes in Indian society, first we have to study the villages. The basic units of Indian society are nothing but villages. That's why if we study the villages, we can come to know about Indian culture. And we are going to study what are the changes that are brought about in Indian society. British people introduced different varieties of revenue settlement systems, because of which agrarian relations were changed. Different social groups were created and a number of changes in the relations were observed. Landlords, then agricultural laborers were there in the beginning. Later, because of the revenue settlement policies introduced by the Britishers, even some landlords lost their lands, small farmers lost their lands. They were converted into agricultural laborers and industrial workers. New concept, Jamindari system came into existence. And like this, we are going to study mainly agrarian relations in the villages. Why? Because in the villages, the mainstay of occupation is agriculture. That's why we are going to study how the agrarian relations are changed. Before entry of the Britishers, what were the agrarian relations? During the British period, what were the agricultural relations? And after independence, what were the agricultural relations? And after globalization, the important landmarks in our history is entry of Britishers, departure of Britishers, independence, after that globalization. In 1991, our ex-Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao and the then Finance Minister and ex-Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, they introduced liberalization, privatization and globalization. Because of those liberalization, privatization, globalization, number of changes were brought about in Indian society. They affected our agriculture and social relations in the villages. Because of globalization, our Indian economy was opened up. Many multinational companies came to India, they invested their money and they brought technology also. That's why more jobs were created. And many people from the villages, they migrated to urban centers and they got jobs. And because of which, a number of changes are brought about in the villages. What are those changes we are going to study? And after that, in Indian society, I told you, in anthropology, we'll study the social change, evolution of our society. In the past also, there was certain processes which are responsible for socio-cultural change. Sensitization. Sensitization means, even today also we have caste system. In the olden days also we have caste system. Generally in the caste system, for the higher caste, number of privileges are given and the lower caste, number of disabilities are imposed. If you go to rural areas, even today also you can come across. For Brahmins, lot of respect will be there. For Kshatriyas, lot of respect will be there. And untouchables, number of disabilities are imposed. Now, the lower caste people, in order to avoid the disabilities and in order to get the privileges like that of upper caste, they started imitating the lifestyle of the upper caste. In due course of time, they got recognition as the upper caste. That is called sensitization process. In the olden days, it happened. In the medieval India, it happened. Later, after the entry of the Britishers, we started following Western lifestyle, Westernization. Now we are following modernization. Westernization and modernization both are similar almost. Westernization is nothing but social change brought about in Indian society because of contact with Western countries. Modernization is nothing but social change involving the elements of science and technology. Because of science and technology, modernization is going on. Because of contact with the West, some modernization happened in India. They brought some technology into India, railways, postals, communication. Like these industries, Because of westernization, some modernization happened, but entire modernization in India is not because of contact with West. Metro, it is because of contact with Japan. Am I correct or not? That's why we'll study westernization and modernization. These are the processes which are responsible for social change in our society. Imitating the lifestyle of the upper caste in the olden days, sensitization, then westernization, modernization. Apart from these, we'll study the agents of social change. In our society, certain agents are responsible for social change. Media is responsible for social change, for bringing about awareness with regard to modern amenities, with regard to different varieties of rights, awareness on our rights. Like this, because of media, social change is brought about. And at the same time, empowerment of people, especially the lower caste people, because of Panchayat Raj institutions. In the Panchayat Raj institutions, we have provided for reservation for SCs, STs, OBCs, women. That's why they got empowered. That's why there are many agents which are responsible for social change, but in our syllabus, they mention only two agents. One is media and second one is Panchayat Raj institutions. That's why here we are going to study traditional Indian society and its continuation, social change. After that, we'll study the fourth chapter, that is growth of anthropology in India. Growth of anthropology in India. Actually, this chapter should be there either as first chapter or as fifth chapter, but UPSC arranged the syllabus like that. If you study all these concepts, then you can easily understand the growth of anthropology. Why? Because whenever we are studying traditional Indian society, social change, we are going to tell you what are the who are the different anthropologists, what are the different concepts introduced by different anthropologists, especially caste system. You might have come across, definitely you'll come across this word dominant caste, dominant caste, dominant caste in our daily life. How a particular caste becomes a dominant caste? What are the criteria that are responsible, or what are the factors that are responsible for a caste to become dominant caste? In which areas a dominant caste exercises its influence? Like that, different anthropologists introduce different concepts, and we are going to study those concepts when we study traditional Indian society and social change. Then after studying these concepts, if you study the growth of anthropology, then you can easily understand the growth of anthropology. Actually, without discussing all those topics, if I discuss the growth of anthropology in India, I require 1 week of time to explain that chapter. After discussing these two chapters, if we discuss in 1 day, we can complete that chapter. That is about Indian society syllabus. The tribal India. In tribal India, the syllabus is highly unorganized, and that too, in your exam, the current affairs based questions will be asked mainly from tribal India. In order to ask tribal India questions, current affairs based tribal India questions, we have to follow one special approach. Not only that approach will be applied not only in anthropology but also in general studies. In tribal India, we'll study what are the problems of the tribal people. If there are certain problems, if you identify certain problems with respect to any community, if you want to solve those problems, first of all, you should know what are the measures taken by the governments already, whether they are working properly or not. Without knowing all those measures, if you want to deal with a particular problem, it is not possible to deal with it effectively. Am I correct or not? That's why in tribal India, we'll study what are the problems of the tribal people. What are the problems of the tribal people? What are the measures taken by our rulers? Measures taken by our rulers. That means at the time of independence itself, our constitutional makers introduced some measures in the constitution itself for the protection and development of tribals. That's why we are going to study the constitutional measures. After that, many people became prime ministers and ministers. Even after the completion of their tenure, in order to have continuous guarantee to the rights of the tribal people, they enacted certain laws. What are those laws? We are going to study those laws. Legislative measures are laws. Legislative measures. SC/ST Prevention of Atrocities Act, enacted in the year 1989. But it is in operation even today also. That means certain rulers, in order to protect the tribal people, even after the completion of their tenure, they made certain laws. They will be in operation even after the completion of their tenure. SC/ST Prevention of Atrocities Act, 1989. PISA, Panchayat Extension to the Scheduled Areas, in order to empower the tribal people. Previously, we introduced the Panchayat Raj system to all the areas except tribal areas. Later, we realized that actually there is one reason for not extending the Panchayat Raj institutions to the scheduled areas. We thought that our policy makers thought that tribal people, they are illiterate people and ignorant people. They do not know what they require. That's why we have given special powers to the governor with respect to administration of the tribal areas. Later, we realized that especially because of the works conducted by our anthropologists, we realized that tribal people also have the capacity to govern themselves. That's why we extended Panchayat Raj system to the tribal areas also. Panchayat extension to the scheduled areas. PISA Act. Later, Forest Rights Act. In order to recognize the rights of the tribal people and the forests, we have introduced a Forest Rights Act also. Tribal people, they are living in the forests. They used to consider themselves as the lords of the forests. In fact, that is true. And they had a lot of commitment with respect to protection of the forests, rather than the so-called intelligent people or the so-called elite people. Why? Because they used the forest on sustainable basis. They used the forest only to meet their needs, but not to meet their greed. That's why even today also in many forest areas, number of resources are there. In non-forest areas, the so-called developed people, they utilize the resources at a rapid pace. That's why those resources have become unsustainable resources. Now we are speaking about sustainable development. The term is new, but the tribal people, they have been following the principles of sustainable development from times immemorial. They offered their lives also for the sake of protection of the forests. In Rajasthan, there are certain tribal people, Bishnoi tribe. For the protection of trees, they offered their lives also. For the sake of construction of one wooden palace, for the sake of a king, in the 15th century, the employees of the king started cutting the trees in the forests. Then the Bishnoi tribal people, they hugged the forests and they asked the army people of the king to cut their bodies first before cutting the trees. Accordingly, they cut their bodies, later they cut their trees also. Later the king realized, the king came to know about that incident, and he ordered the stopping of construction of wooden palace. In the name of the tribe, we have been giving one award also for those people who have been rendering good services for the protection of the forests. That is the contribution of the tribal people for the sake of protection of the forests. But after the entry of the British people established their supremacy on the tribal people, and they were reduced to subjects. Now their rights were taken away. Even after independence, especially in the year 1956, our government of India introduced a forest policy, national forest policy. According to that forest policy, the forests are the national resources. Then at that point of time, forests were under the control of Minister of Agriculture. The then Minister of Agriculture said that the tribal people are living in the forest. Their proximity to the forest is just an accident. Because of their accidental location, they can make a better utilization of the forest resources. But forests are the national resources. For the sake of rapid economic development, the government can use those resources. The government can take away the rights of the tribal people also. And they assumed that because of the tribals, the forests were being damaged. And they assumed that the government is so scientific. That's why they created one separate department, forest department. for the sake of protection and development of forests. For the sake of so-called rapid economic development, they recruited contractors for rapid exploitation of the forests. Ultimately, there was deforestation, ecological imbalance. Finally, it resulted in Chipko movement also. The tribal people fought against the government. Then government realized and stopped the construction of the forests also. Here, what happened because of that policy, the forest department was created. They became the masters over the forests. The rights of the tribal people were completely taken away. Later we realized the injustice, historical injustice done to the tribal people. Then we enacted Forest Rights Act 2006 in the year 2006. Almost after 60 years of independence, we recognized the rights of the tribal people. Accordingly, we are giving certain rights. Even today also there are many pending claims. Because of the corruption, their claims are not accepted. And because of some other factors also. And government, by citing development as the reason, government started displacing the tribal people. For the sake of development, we require mineral resources. The tribal people have been following the principles of sustainable development from times immemorial. That's why in the tribal areas there are many resources. And that too, after globalization, multinational companies entered into India. Now their eyes were attracted towards the tribal areas. Now by policy corruption, just by bribing the policy makers, they are getting rights over the tribal areas. Simply by citing development as the reason, they displaced the tribal people. Tribal people were displaced. Now, because of the displacement of the tribal people without proper compensation, their lives were damaged. They became paupers. They have been experiencing already poverty. Now the rigors of the poverty were increased. The government realized, until 2013, in the year 2013, we enacted an act, Land Acquisition, Resettlement and Rehabilitation of the People. Until then, until 2013, in India, land acquisition was governed by 1894 Land Acquisition Act, 1894. That means almost 120 years. Even after independence also, we followed the British law. According to 1894 Land Acquisition Act, by citing public purpose as the reason, we can take away the public land. And the amount of compensation is also not mentioned. The government decides depending on its will or depending on its assessment. There is no legal guarantee for payment of compensation also. To tribal people, they are the weakest section of our society. How many of you know about Land Acquisition Act? The so-called well-educated people, graduates, engineers, doctors, including me. I did not know about the Land Acquisition Act before starting my preparation. Of course, by that time, that law was not there. In 2013, that law was enacted. Before that, I too didn't know. If that is the case with the so-called educated people, you can imagine the situation with the tribal people who are very less educated. Even in case of awareness also, they don't have money to approach the lawyers. In India, the settlement of disputes through formal judicial system is a lengthy process or lengthy procedure, an expensive procedure. Am I correct or not? For the settlement of a case, it takes 5 to 10 years. And lakhs of cases are pending in the courts of law. Is it possible for the poverty-ridden people to hire private lawyers and to fight against the multinational companies for prolonged periods? Not possible. Of course, in 2013, we enacted one law. Before that, it was not there. That's why the lives of the tribal people were ruined like anything. Ultimately, the government realized. Finally, in the year 2013, we enacted one law for the sake of a proper land acquisition, resettlement and rehabilitation of the project-affected families. Because of the developmental activities, people will be displaced not only in tribal areas but also in non-tribal areas. So there is a general law. In that law, one section, one chapter was separately incorporated for the sake of protection of the tribal people. special provisions were incorporated. That is a general law for the sake of all the people who are going to be affected because of land acquisition. But in that also one separate chapter was incorporated to protect the interests of the tribal people. Like that, number of laws, those 4 laws are there exclusively for the sake of tribals. SC/ST Prevention of Atrocities Act, Visa Act, Forest Rights Act, Land Acquisition Act. And later we'll study even the present governments also, for the sake of development of tribal people, have been implementing a number of programs. We have a separate ministry, Ministry of Tribal Affairs. It has been implementing a number of programs for the educational development, economic development of the tribal people. We are going to study what are those programs which are being implemented by the government for the sake of development of the tribal people. After that, apart from government, NGOs are also playing an important role in the development of the tribal people. Tribal people, they are living in the remote areas, they are living in the forests, where the government machinery is absent in many cases. That's why they are called service deficient areas. In the service deficient areas, in order to provide services to the tribal people, government also started encouraging non-governmental organizations. That's why non-governmental organizations are playing an important role in the development of tribals. What are the different non-governmental organizations working for the sake of development of tribal people? We'll study. And after that, we'll study what are the changes brought about by all these measures? Social change. What are the changes brought about or impact of all these developmental programs? And finally, we'll study what we can do as anthropologists or anthropology students. That means the role of anthropology in tribal development we'll study. All these are part and parcel of your general studies only. You will come across all these issues. The entire second paper is nothing but general studies. That's why here you are going to learn only first paper newly. Second paper, even if you do not anthropology as an optional, as part and parcel of your GS preparation, you have to study all these concepts. But if you study these concepts in optional, you will have in-depth understanding. That will be useful for you in answering general studies questions. And that too, here we are going to study Indian society from cultural point of view, biological point of view, and from weaker sections point of view. Here in tribal India, we will study mainly the tribals. But apart from tribals, we will study SCs also. What are the problems of the SCs? Measures taken by the government for the sake of protection development of SCs. What are the problems of the OBCs? What are the measures taken by the government of India for the sake of protection development of OBCs? Similarly, we will study minorities also. So we are going to study almost all the weaker sections of our society. Here, whenever you have in-depth understanding of the weaker sections of our society, then your answers will have richness. Here in the optionals, we are going to have in-depth study. That's why whenever you have that in-depth understanding, even in interview also, instantaneous answers you can give, even without thinking. Am I correct or not? That is the advantage of second paper for your general studies, even general essay also. When I was preparing for civil services, one question was asked: is it necessary to impose moratorium on opening more and more tribal areas for the sake of mining? Is it necessary to impose moratorium? Moratorium means temporary ban. Is it necessary to impose moratorium on opening more and more tribal areas for the sake of mining? That was the question given. Then I simply gave answer from anthropology. That's it. Just by writing one page of content extra as a beginning, that means as introduction, and by giving my own views at the end, 80% of the content is from anthropology. Then I got 120 marks out of 200. When we were writing civil service examination, general essay paper was for 200. Now it is for 250. Generally, your success will be decided in the exam by 3 papers. First one is optional. After that, general essay. After that, ethics. These papers are going to influence your success. Now, whenever we have in-depth understanding of our Indian society, to some extent, uncertainty in general essay can be avoided. General essay paper will be under our control. General essay means is one paper, that means 250 marks. General essay definitely affect our success in our examination. That's why many students, after changing the optional, they are able to conquer the exam, conquer the UPSC. They say all these things, you may feel that as he is from anthropology perspective, as he is anthropology faculty, he may tell from anthropology perspective. But my suggestion is genuine. I am genuinely telling you that this is very, very useful. Okay, this is the overview of our anthropology syllabus. Now, let us discuss the question paper pattern. In your exam, 2 papers will be there. Each paper carries 250 marks. Section A and Section B. In each paper, 2 sections will be there. Section A and Section B. In Section A, there will be 4 questions. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Similarly, in Section B also, there will be 4 questions. 5, 6, 7, and 8. In Section A, first question is compulsory. In Section B also, first question is compulsory. In the compulsory question, again there will be 5 questions. Splitting will be there, sub-questions will be there. Each question carries 10 marks. That means 50 marks. Here also 50 marks. Ultimately, each question carries 50 marks. In the examination, you have to answer 5 questions. 5 into 50, 250 marks. In the first section, first question is compulsory. In the second section also, first question is compulsory. In the remaining questions, from Section A, at least you must attempt 1 question. Let us assume you have selected this question. 1 question, 50 marks. Of course, here there will be splitting. 3 sub-questions will be there. 20, 15, 50. In each question, again 3 questions will be there. Each question, same pattern will be there. Each question carries 50. Similarly, from the B section also, you have to select at least 1 question other than this compulsory question. Let us assume you have selected this 50 marks. Total, how many questions you have to answer? 5. 4 questions are over. The 5th question, you can select either from Section A or from Section B. Either from Section A or from Section B. Let us assume you have selected the 3rd question from Section A. Then 50 marks. That means in the examination, you are going to attempt 150 marks from one section, 100 marks from another section. This is very, very important to understand the success mantra of anthropology. Ultimately, you are going to attempt 150 marks from one section, 100 marks from another section. Anyway, this is compulsory. That means out of 3 questions, if you select 1 question, that is sufficient. Similarly, in paper 1, in paper 2 also, same pattern will be there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. Here also, first question is compulsory, 5th question is compulsory. And you have to select any 1 question from Section A and 1 question from Section B. 5th question, you can select from any one of the sections. Now, previously, I told you that in paper 1, Section A, socio-cultural anthropology will be there. In Section B, physical anthropology will be there. In paper 2, in Section A, Indian society will be there. In section B, questions from tribal India will be there. In paper 1, section A, social culture, questions from social culture anthropology will be given. In section B, questions from physical anthropology will be given. In paper 2, section A, questions from Indian society will be given. In paper 2, section B, questions from tribal India will be given. Now, so far, all the successful candidates have selected majority, 95% of the majority candidates, 95% of the times, we will select. We'll also advise the students to attempt 3 questions from physical anthropology. 3 questions from physical anthropology and 2 questions from social culture anthropology. Why? Because here in physical anthropology, the questions are science based. Here for us in examination, I told you, in the compulsory question, 10 marks questions will be there. And in the remaining questions, long answer questions will be there, 20 marks, 15 marks. Ultimately, in your exam, 10 marks questions will be there. They are called as popularly short notes or short answer questions. Then 15 marks questions, 20 marks questions. For 10 marks questions, you have to write answer in 100 to 150 words. For 15 marks question, you have to give answer in 200 to 250 words. For 20 marks question, you have to give answer in 250 to 300 words. Word limitation will be there. If you want to write more than that, then your time will be wasted in the examination. Many of you may not realize at this point of time, in the examination, ultimately, you have to write answers to 19 questions. 19 questions. In the compulsory question, 5 questions will be there. In the section A, 5 questions in section B. Total 10 questions. In the remaining 3 questions, in each question, splitting will be there, 3, 3, 3. Total 19 questions. To answer all the 19 questions, 3 hours of time is not sufficient. Many students, in the first attempt, after completion of exam, they used to tell that, sir, time did not permit us, sir, to write all the questions. I did a mistake, sir, by not practicing the tests. Why? Because even UPSC also knows about it. But if you have subject on your fingertips, then without thinking in the examination hall, you can write instantaneous answers. Everyone will prepare. Everyone will get a mastery over the subject. But ability to recollect all the points is very, very important. Only those people who have very good command on the subjects, they can write without thinking in the examination. If you want to think in the examination hall, time will be killed. That's why time management is very, 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 very important for your exam. Now, as far as physical anthropology is concerned, it is science-based. And if you can explain the concept, you need not to meet the word criteria, word limitation criteria. Even for 100 words question also, 100 to 150 words, even if your answer is correct, if scientific mechanism is properly explained, even in 75 words or 80 words, if you can give correct answer, you will get marks. And at the same time here, examiner's discussion can be avoided. What are the different types of marriages in India? There are multiple varieties. If you write 10 varieties, they may or may not appease the examiner. That human factor will be there. In science, what is Darwinism? There are 5 principles. If you write 5 principles, they are correct. What is Lamarckism? 4 principles. If you write, that is correct. That means the human factor can be minimized. The examiner's discussion can be avoided. Time management can be done. That is very, very advantageous. And apart from that, the chance for in-date questions. Of course, in paper 1, current affairs based questions are almost 0. But in social culture anthropology, in-date questions may be given. There are different types of marriages. Where do you fit live-in relationship in the institution of marriage? Based on the current affairs, one question was given. Then in examination hall, you have to think. Then you have to frame an answer. Then time will be killed. Your answer may or may not appease the examiner. But in case of physical anthropology, it is not so. Science-based and indirect questions are less. There is almost zero chances. And if an answer is correct, he has to give marks. Human factor, the discretion of the examiner can be avoided. Human factor can be minimized. That too, remembering physical anthropology is so easy. The only thing is a correct teacher is required. That's it. Many people, many engineering students, they opted mathematics as their optional. After the completion of 2 attempts, they approached me. Sir, we are from engineering background. Can we crack civil science exam with anthropology as an option? Why? Because here biology is there. In 2015, 8 students, they approached me. They took coaching in Delhi and they came to Hyderabad. They approached me. In that group of 8 friends, 7 aspirants were doctors. One student, he was not a doctor. These doctors, they thought that they are doctors, they have very good command over physical anthropology and they can clear the exam. Finally, doctors did not clear the exam. That student cleared the exam. Because of that fear of new to the subject, he learned the subject perfectly. And he himself drew certain boundaries to each and every topic and he acquired mastery over the topic. These doctors, they thought that they have very good subject. That's why they started explaining more and more. But their doctors are not evaluating the answer. Am I correct or not? That is the problem. That's why having boundaries to our answers is defining the boundaries to our answer is very, very important. That's why many engineering students, because of that feeling of new to the subject, they had their own boundaries and accordingly they had pakka answers or they prepared well-defined answers and they reproduced the same answers. Those people who feel that they are more educated, they started writing more and more answers, they started killing time also. So that is very, very important. But whatever it may be, of course, they clear the exam, whatever it may be. But for time management, for avoiding the human discussion or examiner's discussion, and for getting more marks, physical anthropology is very, very important. That's why so far many successful candidates, they attempted 3 questions from physical anthropology. If you come to paper 2, tribal India current affairs based questions will be there. In Indian anthropology, static questions. What are the different races in India? What are the different languages in India? What are the factors that are responsible for increase in population size? All are static questions only, fixed answers. Current affairs are not going to change those answers. Evolution of Indian culture happened in the past. Paleolithic culture, current affairs are not going to change past culture. Am I correct or not? Like that, here majority of the content is static content. That's why here you can predict the questions and you can have ready-made answers. That's why it is better to attempt 3 questions from section A in paper 2 and 2 questions from section B. This is the success strategy that is to be followed. But this is not absolute. Sometimes some unexpected questions may be there in UPSC also. UPSC can be better called as unpredictable public service commission rather than Union Public Service Commission. Sometimes they may give shocks. See, most of the times we'll follow this strategy. But sometimes we have to change the strategy also. But majority of the times, if there are more questions from physical anthropology, time management can be done and examiner's discussion can be avoided. Revision is also very, very important. The revision day, the day before the exam is very, very important. And here, majority of the topics are static. We can have ready-made answers. If you have ready-made answers, you can get maximum marks. And this is the strategy that is to be followed. Now, many of you may be thinking, and some of you might have come across this statement also, anthropology, we can prepare our own. We can easily understand. Yes, we can easily understand anthropology. and you can prepare on your own also, but it may take 3 years or 4 years of time. 60% of the syllabus is so easy. 40% you require guidance. Without guidance, it is not possible to crack the exam in first attempt or second attempt. Time is precious. And if you go to interview in the first or second attempt, then only the chances of selection will be very, very high. If you go to interview in fifth attempt or sixth attempt, only some exceptional candidates may get. And that female candidates may get selection. Why? Because in the notification itself, you can come across one statement in the official notification: women candidates are encouraged. You may feel that this is highly absurd, but this is true. That's why, in order to acquire mastery over the subject, coaching is required. And consider a pot of water. If there is one small hole, then entire water will be lost. Similarly, this is a competitive examination. In the competitive examination, definitely we must have more subject when compared with other students. And there may be seniors also who are preparing from the past 5 years or 6 years. But all are going to write the exam in 1 year, if we can clear the prelims examination. That's why, in order to write effective answers and in order to get mastery over the subject as early as possible, coaching is very, very essential. That is my opinion. And apart from that, in my coaching, generally we complete the coaching in 4 months. It will take 4 months plus or minus 15 days. Generally, we'll start with paper 2, Indian society. Why? Because as we are Indians, we can easily understand many concepts in Indian society. Then with that background, if you discuss first paper, you can easily understand. If I start directly with first paper, then you may feel that many of the concepts are new to you. That's why I want to inject the subject like that of slow poison. First, we'll deal with Indian society. We'll inject some subject into your brain. After that, we'll go into advanced level. And in my classes, in a class of 2 hours or 1.5 hours, let us take for your easy understanding. In a class of 1 hour, I will take 45 minutes of class. After that, remaining 15 minutes will concentrate on probable questions and the suggested answers. In what manner our answer must be channelized. Proper structuring is very, very important. Examiner is also a human being. You should not irritate the examiner. If I give less marks here, you may question me. But is it possible for you to question UPSC examiners? No. So you have to keep this point in your mind. You should not irritate the examiners. That means your answer must be clear with good subheadings and proper handwriting and proper structure. And if we can impress the examiner in first few pages, that impression will be continued into the next pages also. That is true. This human factor plays very, very important role. Sometimes your service may be affected. Instead of IAS, you may get IPS. Instead of IPS, you may get IRS. Instead of IRS, you may get some unrecognized service also. All the intelligent students clear the exam. Interview is going to play very, very important role. If you want to minimize the role of interview, in that half an hour of interaction, they are going to decide your future. That's why interview also plays an important role. In order to minimize the role of interview in your selection, you must get as maximum marks as possible. That's why here, in order to get more marks in the mains examination, selection of option is very, very important. Without proper guidance, we can get exams, we can get good marks. But in order to get more marks and very good service, that too in your own state, coaching is very, very important. This is about anthropology, orientation and anthropology. This is what I want to convey. Now you can ask your doubts. Thanks for being patient without asking any question, without interrupting me. ఏమైనా డౌట్స్ ఉంటే అడగచ్చు. Generally, we teach in bilingual manner. Why? Because majority of the students are from Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. If we teach in our mother tongue, these points, they will become bullets and they will penetrate into your brain. ఒక్కోసారి ఇంగ్లీష్ టర్మ్స్ ఉంటాయి కదా, కాంప్లికేటెడ్ టర్మ్స్, తెలుగులో ఒక్క పదం చెప్పగానే దెబ్బకి అర్థమైపోతుంది. సో but as this is a live session, majority of the class was taken in English language, but in class we'll use both the languages, both Telugu as well as English. Telugu అయితే anthropology, entire anthropology 70 to 80% of the times jokes ఏ ఉంటాయి. ఎందుకంటే majority of the here we are going to study human behavior, our behavior only. Previously I told you na, unmarried, differentiation of married girl, unmarried girl. Like that, I want to teach the subject and I want to make you enjoy the subject. That's why here subject we will learn and at the same time lot of fun will be there in the class. Okay, if there are doubts you can ask. Huh? Pardon? See, if you are attending coaching, we are charging something, some money. Am I correct on that? It is our responsibility to go through different sources and to give the essence of all the sources. We will give the essence of it. Is our responsibility to purchase textbooks. It is our responsibility to study those textbooks. Your responsibility is read our material, that is sufficient. I prepared one comprehensive material over a period of 14 years. We enriched it. Actually, with that material only, I got 360 marks. And after becoming faculty, I enriched it again and again. And that material is sufficient. And in the classroom, now and then, depending, for all the topics, it's not possible for me to tell the sources. Say, for example, Tribal India, based on the important standard textbooks, based on the government reports, we prepared one material. But every year, Minister of Tribal Affairs may release one annual report. Like that, we'll tell you. Similarly, minorities. Minister of Minority Affairs may appoint a commission and its report may be published in the public domain. Like that, depending upon the requirement, we'll tell you the sources. For all the topics, it's not possible for me to tell the sources now itself. If you want me to tell the sources now, I can tell you. But I will give you a list of 10 to 14 textbooks. But for one source, for one particular topic, one source may be there. For another particular topic, another source may be there. That's why we will take that responsibility. We will prepare one material, we will give that material. In the classroom, I'll give the flow charts, diagrams, all those things. Exam format will be there in the classroom. A written content will be there in the material. Generally, we will give material. After giving the material, we advise the students to keep one white paper in between two papers in the material, so that those structures will be the entire concept will be given in the form of one simplified chart here. They are going to play an important role in the exam. That's why our material, classroom notes, they are sufficient. Apart from certain sources like government websites, I'll tell you. And depending upon the seminars, anthropology seminars will be there. Anthropological Survey of India, they conduct seminars now and then. Like that, depending upon the requirement, we'll tell certain sources. If you go through those sources, that is sufficient. As far as my coaching is concerned, we feel that it is our responsibility to go through different sources. And it is our responsibility to give you the essence. What is the essence of coaching? To get maximum information within the shortest possible time. ఎవరు చదువుకున్నా అర్థమవుతుంది. కోచింగ్కి ఎందుకు వస్తారు? తక్కువ టైంలో ఎక్కువ నేర్చుకోవాలి. ఆ ఆబ్జెక్టివ్ మీట్ అయినప్పుడు ఆ చెప్పేవాడు ఫ్యాకల్టీ కాదు. దట్ ఈస్ ట్రూ. మీరు ఒప్పుకున్నా ఒప్పుకోకపోయినా దిస్ ఇస్ ట్రూ. అట్లా చెప్పకపోతే అది ఫ్యాకల్టీ కాదు. హియర్ మై కన్సర్న్ ఈజ్ లైక్ దట్ ఓన్లీ. We'll give maximum focus to conceptual clarity. And after that, structuring of the answers. Structuring of the answer is very, very important. Ultimately, we have to get more marks in the exam. అంతే కదా, మన నాలెడ్జ్ కాదు అక్కడ చూసేది, మన ఆన్సర్ ఎట్లా ప్రజెంట్ చేసాము, అదే మెయిన్ ఇంపార్టెంట్. That's why don't ask me again sources. Depending upon the requirement, I will tell you. Okay. If there are doubts, you can ask any other information. If you visit any website, you can come to know about number of textbooks.
And all the other factors. So what's it like, the competition within the option? Is there any data to
Yes. First of all, yes. First of all, competition definitely will be there in optional. But majority of the students who are taking anthropology as an optional are from South India. And some are from North India. Even many of the students may be attending same class. All the students are not going to clear the prelims examination in the same year. That is one thing. Second one is individual capability is very, very important. Without individual, your perfection in general studies is also very, very important. Even though all the students are attending the same class, your answers may be different depending upon your perception. మేము ఇక్కడ ఎంత చెప్పినా కూడా ఆన్సర్ రాస్తే ఒక్కొక్కరు ఒక్కొక్క విధంగా రాస్తారు. That's why here your command on general studies and your general understanding and the understanding of the keywords in the question. Say for example, I'll take one concept, dominant caste concept. Question is on dominant caste. I'll tell you 3 questions. Discuss the concept of dominant caste of M.N. Srinivas. Analyze the concept of dominant caste of M.N. Srinivas. Critically analyze the concept of dominant caste of M.N. Srinivas. Examine the concept of dominant caste of M.N. Srinivas. Critically examine the concept of dominant caste of M.N. Srinivas. All are on dominant caste concept of M.N. Srinivas only. But the keywords are different. Examine, analyze, critically examine, critically analyze, discuss. Like this, we have to identify the keyword in the question. Based on the keyword, we have to predict what the examiner is expecting. Accordingly, we have to write answers. The ability to identify the keywords and the ability to frame the answers in the examination hall is going to influence your success in the competition. That's why all these factors will be taken into consideration. They are going to play an important role. Even though all are studying the same material, even though all are attending the same classes, these factors are going to play an important role. And answer writing practice is very, very important. All are attending the same coaching, same material, but only some students are going to clear the exam. Why? Practice is very, very important. Command is very, very important. Interrelating two concepts of paper A, section A and section B is also very, very important. Like that, depending upon certain factors, our success in the competition will be effective. Writing practice mainly. Writing practice and perfect command over the syllabus is going to influence the success. Those factors vary from student to student. మేమంతా చెప్పినా కూడా స్టార్టింగ్లో అడుగుతారు చాలామంది, సార్ ఎగ్జామ్స్ పెడతారా రెగ్యులర్గా అని. కరెక్ట్గా ఒక ఎగ్జామ్ రాస్తారు. ఇప్పుడు కనీసం నేను 14 ఏళ్ళ నుంచి చెప్తున్నా, కనీసం ఇప్పటికీ ఒక 30-40 బ్యాచ్లు చెప్పుంటాను. ప్రతి బ్యాచ్లో అందరూ అడుగుతుంటారు, సార్ ఎగ్జామ్స్ రెగ్యులర్గా పెడతారా అని. పెడతాను. ఫస్ట్ వీక్ రాస్తారు. ఫస్ట్ వీక్ ఒక 50 మంది స్టూడెంట్స్ ఉంటే ఒక 30 మంది ఏమో రాస్తారు. సెకండ్ వీక్ 10 మంది అవుతారు. థర్డ్ వీక్ 5 మంది అవుతారు. ఫోర్త్ వీక్ నుంచి 0. సో ఎస్పెషల్లీ ఆంధ్రులు ఆరంభ సూరత్వం ఎక్కువ అంటుంటారు కదా, అట్లా మన వాళ్ళు స్టార్టింగ్లో తెగ రాస్తామంటారు, తర్వాత ఎవరో కొంతమంది ఆ కమిట్మెంట్ లాస్ట్ దాకా మెయింటైన్ చేస్తారు. ఇన్ లాస్ట్ బ్యాచ్ only 2 students wrote exams, all the exams until the completion of coaching. It depends upon the individual students and their commitment and your command in general studies also. నేను ఎంత చెప్పినా ఆప్షనల్తో సక్సెస్ అంటే ముందు ప్రిలిమ్స్ అనే బ్యారియర్ క్రాస్ చేయాలి మీరు. యూ హ్యావ్ టు క్రాస్ ప్రిలిమ్స్ బ్యారియర్. మై సక్సెస్ విల్ బి డిసైడెడ్ బై యువర్ సక్సెస్ ఇన్ ప్రిలిమినరీ ఎగ్జామినేషన్. That's why individual factors play an important role. Okay. Generally, it is a complicated process, but No, scaling is there. It is there. It is there. Even though scaling is there, most of the times in anthropology will get good marks. Percentile plays an important role. Not percentage, percentile.
That's what I want to.
Why? Because individual. Pardon?
Why do certain options have that edge? You see, Anthro and maybe one social Anthro majorly, people getting, a lot of people getting more than 600. But you don't see that happening in other optional sections, to my knowledge.
See, on scaling, I do not have exact understanding, but percentile plays an important role. In anthropology, a 99 percentile or 100 percentile will be obtained by many students. That's why they'll get maximum marks. In case of other optionals, that 99 percentile, 1% students. Then 90 percentile, like that. Number of students may be less. 100% perfection will be achieved by majority of the students in anthropology when compared with others. That is the reason. Get it? Yes, 100%. That's what I told you previously. I got 120 marks out of 200. And if you calculate on the basis of 250 marks, it will be around 150 marks. Definitely. In anthropology, we study Indian society. In general essay, understanding of Indian society plays an important role. Definitely, it will be useful. The nature of the subject itself, has less scope for indirect questions.
Possible the scope of
Yes, there is possibility. There is possibility. But see, I'll tell you one dictum. If we select one common option, the success of common is common. The success of that optional or the success of that aspirant is common. That means if we select an optional which is selected by 99% of the students, it will be in that 99%. If you select rare optional, your success will also be rare. If you opt commonly optional, the chances for success is very, very high. If you opt rarely opted optionals, the chances of success is very less. My advice is, please don't go against the sentiments. Okay, we tried like this. We made innovations. That's why instead of becoming IAS officers, we became faculty in IAS coaching centers. Yes, that is true. I thought that I'm a doctor. I thought that I can clear exam with zoology and optional. At that point of time, even today also, there is one coaching center, by name RCD IAS coaching center. At that point of time, only 1 or 2 coaching centers were there. He told me, you opt for anthropology. Then I said, no, I'm a doctor, I can clear the exam. Then after writing the exam, I got, at that point of time, 2 options were there. In anthropology, I got 360. In zoology, I got only 220. My career was spoiled. In spite of that, I got interview call. But getting good marks is very, very important. You have to go along with the trend. If you want to go against the trend, the chances of success will be very less. These are our lifetime experiences based on our lives only. Don't go against the trend. Opt commonly opted optionals, then the chance of success will be very, very high. When I joined SV Medical College for pursuing medical career. Then first year is basically theory will be there. From second year onwards, practicals will be there. From second year onwards, hospital training will be there. On the first day, my professor told me that if we diagnose a common disease, it will be commonly correct. If we diagnose a rare disease, it will be rarely correct. That principle is being followed by us even today. Those people who followed that principle, they emerged as the most successful doctors in Andhra Pradesh. Here also same. If you opt commonly opted options, the chances of success is very, very high. If you opt rare options, the chance of success will be rare. Only some people. There is one person, an IAS officer. His name is Adapa Karthik. He got All India first rank with zoology as an optional. He's a doctor. In that case, he got the best marks. In optional, in zoology option itself, he got 420. All are non-principal. If you get, if it succeeds, you will get maximum marks. Otherwise, your life will be spoiled. That's why my sincere advice is don't opt rarely opted optionals. If you opt a commonly opted optional, the chances of success is very, very high. Rare optionals will be opted by intellectuals only. If you are competing with intellectuals, the chances of success will be less. Am I correct? అంతేనా? ఐఏఎస్ ఆఫీసర్ అవ్వాలంటే ఎట్లుండాలి? వితౌట్ ఎనీ హెసిటేషన్ ఐ హ్యావ్ టు ఆస్క్ ది డౌట్స్. కామ్ కూర్చుంటే ఎట్లా ఇద్దరు ముగ్గురు అడిగారు డౌట్స్. Of course. That's why if you clear the examination, you are going to have the best life. On rarest exam, that's why only few people are getting the best life in the life. Am I correct అన్న? 10 లక్షల మంది రాస్తే చివరికి 1000 మందికే బెస్ట్ లైఫ్ వస్తుంది. రేర్ ఎగ్జామ్, రేర్ సక్సెస్. దట్స్ ఇట్. ఇవన్నీ ఫ్యాక్ట్స్ కొద్దిగా డైజెస్ట్ చేసుకోలేరు, బట్ దిస్ ఇస్ ట్రూ. 5 లక్షల మంది రాస్తే వచ్చేది ఎంతమందికి? 1000 మందికి. అందరూ ఐఏఎస్ ఆఫీసర్లు కాదు కదా. అంటే 4,99,000 మంది వెనక్కి వస్తారు. బట్ జనాలు అదే కావాలని. But those people who have that confidence that they can go through that competition, they can prepare without any hesitation. But the only thing is commitment, consistency in preparation. That is important. I think more than 50% of the students, they're attending classes only because of parental pressure or because of the attraction towards that status. But along with the desire to become an IAS officer or to enjoy the life of an IAS officer, our commitment should also be like that. Then only you can get through this toughest exam. Commitment is very, very important. Commitment with proper guidance, that is very, very important. What else? Come on, please be loud. In order to score good marks in general studies in one component, instead of studying some other optional, it's better to concentrate on that subject only. If you want to score good marks in history, general studies, you have to focus on the contents of the general studies books. You have to practice it rather than opting history as an optional. See, one option is sufficient. In order to get command over different components of general studies, so why do you want to take 2 optionals, coach? It's not advisable. You can allocate that time to acquire more command, equitable command on all the subjects. That is very, very important. See, getting good marks in one component, getting less marks in another component is not going to give you good result. Balanced performance. Get 90 marks or 100 marks in all the general studies papers. Then you will be in top 10 or top 100. Don't try to get the best marks in each and every paper. But you have to work along those lines. But if you get average marks in all the subjects, definitely you will get very good marks. You will be in top 100. See, I am one of the national toppers in anthropology. What about the remaining subjects? Understand? Here, instead of studying two optionals for the sake of enhancing your understanding of one of the components of GS, better to achieve minimum standards of understanding in all the subjects. If you focus on history optional in order to get good marks in history, what about ethics? Like that, there are different components in gender studies. That's why better to allocate equitable amount of time to all the subjects. Okay. If you want to opt for one optional for the sake of acquiring command or a particular subject, you have to opt for 20 optionals. Geography, history, public administration, political science, sociology, anthropology, economics. Like that, there are a number of subjects. Opt one optional and allocate your time equitably on all the components of GS. And your performance should be equal in all the subjects. Getting more marks in one paper, less marks in another paper is not advised.
And you were telling, I was thinking that what does anthropology give us in public administration after becoming IAS? And getting into services.
Okay.
What does anthropology do? In addition to this, I come from an engineering background.
Okay.
With a MBA.
Okay.
So by taking this particular option, going to interview, they ask me what is this option.
So, okay. Here there are 2 points. First point is, even if we opt other optional, if you succeed in civil service examination, you will be trained in the training regarding cultural sentiments of the people. Whenever, even though a particular, let us take one construction here in the middle of the road. Let us assume it is an illegal construction. Temple, let us take one temple, illegal temple. By saying that it is illegal, if you want to demolish that temple, can you demolish it? People will respond in a different manner. That's why whenever you are dealing with the you may be intellectual, you may be a learned person, but you are going to deal with the public. That's why understanding the cultural sentiments of the people is very, very important. Without understanding the cultural sentiments of the people, if you want to take any welfare measure, even though it is a useful measure, people will not accept. Even metro plan itself was changed in order to avoid injury to the interests of certain communities in the Patavasti region. Especially in the tribal areas, after becoming administrators, our focus will be on underdeveloped sections of our society. We don't bother about developed people. In the underdeveloped sections, especially in the tribals, the literacy levels will be very less. If you want to bring about any developmental change in that area without taking their cultural sentiments into consideration, then people will not accept your measure. That's why you have to bring development without affecting the cultural sentiments of the people. This cultural sensitization is very, very important. In your training also, cultural sensitization program will be there. That's why that will be useful. There is one concept by name NMS complex, nature, man, spirit complex. We have to understand man would like to maintain always balance between his life, his belief in the spirits or religion, and environmental resources. So even today also, even our ISRO scientists also, they are searching for proper muhurta before launching a satellite. Cultural sentiments play a very, very important role. Even doctors, they believe in science, but before laying a foundation stone for a hospital, they will search for proper muhurta. Why? Cultural sentiments. Similarly, whenever we are taking different varieties of developmental measures, cultural sentiments of the people should not be affected. That's why whenever this type of sensitization is there, then only you can bring about administration smoothly. If everything is going on in a fine manner, government does not require any administrator. Am I correct or not? Your problem is troubleshooting. If there is any problem in the administration, you have to take care of. That's why in order to bring about development or implementation of government policies without affecting sentiments of the people, that is very, very important. That is first thing. Second one is we have to go by flow. UPSC is giving chance to opt any literature also as an optional. What is the use of Telugu literature in the administration? Tell me. Sometimes the rationality may not work. UPSC has prescribed certain optionals. We have to select any one of the optionals. In anthropology, cultural sensitization will be there. Anthropologists will come to train you in the administration. Why? Because cultural sensitization plays an important role. In Kones are the tribal people living in Orissa. They have the custom of human sacrifice. That is highly inhuman practice. William Bentinck, British Governor General, he banned human sacrifice. Tribal people, they are autonomy-loving people. They don't bother about the strength of the enemy. If their autonomy is disturbed, they would like to die rather than subordinating to a strong enemy. Then they revolted against the British people also. Then it has become a headache for the British government. Similarly, if you go to tribal areas, they have different varieties of cultural sentiments. If you give holidays based on Pongal, Dasara, Diwali, it may not appease them. You have to give holidays based on their festivals. Otherwise, the student turnout will be less. That is very, very important. Like that, there are many aspects which we'll discuss in due course of time. I'll tell you one example. Caste system, the rigors of the caste system, they may be rational or irrational. We are providing reservation for STs in different government jobs. But later, because of the recommendations of certain committees and commissions, government thought that only tribal people can impart education. If you appoint tribal educated people as tribal teachers, then they will show more dedication towards improvement of literacy in the tribal areas. That's why the government relaxed the eligibility criteria. Even the 10th class qualified tribal people also got jobs as teachers. They were posted in the tribal areas in the Godavari districts. There are two tribes, Valmiki tribe and Kondareddy tribe. Valmiki tribe and Kondareddy tribe. Kondareddy tribe is considered as ritually superior, socially superior there. Valmiki tribal people are educationally advanced. Because of the relaxation of criteria and because of reservation, Valmiki people who are advanced, they got jobs and they are posted in the tribal areas. In those areas, Kondareddy tribal areas are also there. Kondareddy tribal people, they got themselves, they are of the opinion that they are socially superior. That's why they did not send their children to the schools where Valmiki teachers are there. Then what is the purpose of appointing Valmiki tribal people as the teachers there? Cultural sentiments. That's why in anthropology, the type of cultural sensitization will be there. And in anthropology, we are going to study Indian society. Entire second paper is nothing but Indian society. That gives you a very good understanding, especially let us take any government, any political party at the time of election, they will speak about the problems of the lower caste. Am I correct? Minorities. Here we are going to study minorities, OBCs, SCs, STs. That gives you very good knowledge to deal with those problems in the future. But for everything, we can't give answer. Why? Because what is the role of Telugu literature and administration in dealing with the problems? A person who cleared the UPSC examination with Telugu literature as an optional got posting in Uttar Pradesh. Let us assume Telugu literature optional student may contribute for development of Telugu literature. He was posted in Uttar Pradesh. What is the use? See, some element of rationality. There is scope for some element of rationality also. Okay. Okay.
Question.
What is your second?
Background education background is engineering.
Ah.
I take a anthropology, I go to the interview, what are the supposed that
In anthropology, number of weaker sections. Anthropology is nothing but study of society, sir. I thought that if I take anthropology as an optional, I can get a very good insight into Indian society. That's why I opted anthropology as an optional. Very simple. I interacted with many seniors, and they also advised me. And apart from that, there was a feeling that anthropology is a successful option. You can give that answer without any hesitation. You can modify according to your perception. Anthropology is nothing but study of society. That's it. That's what I told you previously. In anthropology, direct questions will be there. In sociology, indirect questions will be there. Some. In your statement itself, there is answer. Huh? That's what I told you. Some questions. In your statement itself, there is answer. See, time management in physical anthropology gives us very good scope for time management, for minimizing the human factor, and less current affairs will be there. Most of the times these principles work. They are not always correct. Why? Because sometimes UPSC may give questions in a different manner. Most of the times it may work. Definitely. Once in the past, I have been teaching from 2009. In the past 15 years, I observed such type of question paper only once. Only once. I didn't remember that year, 2016 or 17. In public administration, the nature of the subject itself is administration. That's why the questions are extremely complicated. In anthropology, that scope is not there. I don't think so. That's why scaling is there. That's what I told you. UPSC can be better called as Unpredictable Public Service Commission. Why are you focusing on that 1% instead of 99%? There is always probability. All these are probabilities only. That's why I told you that we have to follow the recent trends. That's it. I will never say that opt for anthropology, it will definitely give you success. I'll tell you that this is the possibility. And I told you this is the syllabus. First of all, you must have interest. Second, interest in the subject. That's why I gave you orientation subject. After that, I told you these are the possibilities, these are the questions. Always there is a possibility for a difficult question paper. UPSC known for that. Say last year prelims, this year prelims question paper, have you seen? They give more statements. Until the last year, they used to give 1, 2, 3 correct, 2, 3, 4 correct. Now 2 statements are correct, 3 statements are correct, 4 statements. If you got adjusted with the unpredictability of UPS in the prelims itself, that is sufficient to deal with the unpredictability in mains examination. UPSC gives you all types of training in the prelims itself.
Anthropological theories mentioned in this. Are they only related to the past?
No.
Can you give us some content from
Content not possible. Content
for the Indian society?
See, that is about see, theories are nothing but stories based on the experience of different anthropologists. See, if you interact with 10 IAS officers, you will come to know how the administration will be. Am I correct or not? Similarly, if we interact, we are not going to interact with the anthropologists of the past. We don't have time machines. That's why if you go through their theories, their perceptions can be understood. Then based on, you can come to know about different dimensions of the concept of society. If you know the different dimensions, based on your ability, you can understand the society. Okay, just for the sake of understanding, that's it. People have different perceptions. We are going to deal with those different perceptions. That's it. And apart from that, all the theories are not on the society. Some theories on how to conduct research. Some theories on how to conduct research. ఇంకా ఏమున్నా అడగండి, ఏం పర్వాలేదు. We encourage doubts. Can I leave? Yes or no? Okay.
What taking it? Want to read something about anthropology?
Before opting anthropology, if you want to read something, study Indian polity. Indian polity. Without knowing the Indian constitutional provisions, it's not possible to understand the tribal problems. That is the first thing. Second one is Indian society, sociology textbook. 11th standard and 12th standard sociology textbooks will be there. You can go through it. That is sufficient. Physical, if you have 10th class knowledge, that is sufficient. I will take care of. No, it is not so. You may feel like that, but it is not so. If you have 10th class understanding, that is sufficient. Definitely in your 10th class, before 10th class itself, Lamarckism, Darwinism, cell, nucleus, cytoplasm. Pardon? Basic concepts will be there, but here and there we'll add some advanced concepts. That's it. If you have 10th class knowledge, that is sufficient. And after the completion of physical anthropology, if you tell that physical anthropology is more complicated than social cultural anthropology, genuinely, I will refund your fees. Genuinely, you have to give answer to that question, okay? For the sake of refund, you should not tell like that, okay? ఫిజికల్ ఆంథ్రోపాలజీ అయిపోయిన తర్వాత ఫిజికల్ ఆంథ్రోపాలజీ కన్నా సోషల్ కల్చర్ ఆంథ్రోపాలజీ ఈజీ అని ఎవరన్నా అంటే నేను ఫీజు రిఫండ్ చేస్తాను, ఓకే? అట్లాగని వచ్చి ఎట్లంటే అట్లా చెప్తా అంటే కుదరదు, ఓకే? నేను క్వశ్చన్స్ అడుగుతా, క్వశ్చన్లకి మీరు రాసే ఆన్సర్లను దాన్ని బట్టి డిసైడ్ చేస్తాను, ఓకే? Physical anthropology is so easy. Revision is also not required. Okay. Okay, na? Okay. Have a nice day.